the late Professor Krishna Bhandarkar Award for exemplary service contribution to maritime industry. We request Anil Devli, CEO INSA, and Captain Khatri also to be on stage. And the award for the exemplary service contribution to maritime industry goes to Mr. Deepak Shetty, IRS, former Director General of Shipping. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and give him a loud applause, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I think he deserves a standing ovation, please. He has been in this industry for so many years and has done yeoman service for the maritime industry. Thank you, Mr. Shetty. Thank you, sir, very much. Mr. Anil Devil will say a few words. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Good evening. This is indeed a pleasure. It's always difficult to stop me from talking about Mr. Deepak Shetty. So I have been warned by Captain Bhandarkar to keep it short. But a person such as him, it's difficult to describe him and what he did and what he's doing for the Indian industry. Difficult to describe in a few words, but I'm going to try. A 1980 direct recruit, an IRS service officer. He retired recently as our Director General of Shipping and Secretary to the Government of India in the Director General of Shipping. About 40 years of experience in various positions. Recipient of about 18 awards, and I'm not going to list all 18 of them, but I must talk about the Presidential Award for Appreciation Certificate for Specifically Distinguished Record of Service. And the reason I thought I should mention this is because this, ladies and gentlemen, is the highest formal award that is granted by the Ministry of Finance to any civil servant. And Mr. Shetty, also in addition to a lot of things that he does as the DG Shipping, or teaches every year at the IIT Mumbai, the IPS officers, and this has been something that he's been doing for the past 5 years. We also know that he is an expert on anti-money laundering legislation and also counter-terrorism financing. But one of the most important issues that I thought I must draw your attention to is most of you from the shipping industry would be aware of the scourge of piracy. And the Vice Admiral is there. And we, of course, as the Indian industry, continue to thank the Coast Guard and the Navy for the regular support and the convoys that the Indian Navy has been assisting. But there has been somebody behind the scene who has been working very, very hard for India and not just for the Indian shipping. And that's our Mr. Deepak Shetty. All the time from 2011, from the time we were declared as a high-risk area, India was paying a huge amount of premium on any cargo that was transporting and coming into the east coast or the west coast of India. By a very, very rough calculation, India paid almost close to 8,500 crores of rupees as premium to the London underwriters for this so-called war risk premium. And I have been personally watching Mr. Deepak Shetty continue to go on lobbying, not only just in India, at the UN, at London, with the brokers, and in the face of a lot of no-care attitude by the shipbrokers Joint Warders Committee in London. And it is only thanks to his personal efforts and the whole drive that the man has shown that India was able to get the world to agree that the west coast of India is not a high-risk piracy area, and we were able to get the entire piracy area moved beyond the coast of India. And I think all of us as consumers need to thank this man here. I have not yet seen anybody, any formal recognition of this whole job that he has done. And I must say this, sir, from my heart, that Indian shipping is blessed with bureaucrats such as you. We have one of our others, our DG, Mr. D.T. Joseph, you. And it is thanks to bureaucrats such as this that Indian shipping stands and has a place today in the world. Despite everything else, I think we are here grateful for people such as you, and God bless India and God bless Indian shipping. Thank you.
Ladies,
I also would like to request Mr. Deepak Shetty to say a few words, sir.
Vice Admiral A.K. Chawla, the chief guest of this occasion, Captain Vivek Bhandarkar, Mr. Ashish Pednekar, Mr. Devli, Captain Harish Khatri, members of the Governing Council, Organizing Committee, the Core Committee, distinguished invitees, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. It's indeed an honor and privilege to be here amidst all of you this evening to receive this award. It's quite surreal, that's the feeling. Until 30th of November 2016, I was handing out awards, and here I am at the receiving end of one. But as life goes, freebies are always welcome. And so be it. I am deeply indebted to the Governing Council, members of the jury, for this conferment. I take it as an honor. I've just hung up my boots after 36 years, 2 months, and 15 days to the count in what has been an exceptionally memorable journey in my civil service career, starting on the 16th of September, 1980. As I have traversed this saga, this path, I have been exceptionally blessed, and I think the icing on the cake when I got empaneled and eventually picked up as Secretary to the Government of India. When I hark back to the time when I was a young probationer and a first-time Assistant Commissioner of Customs, not in my wildest dreams did I ever visualize that I would come this far in the civil service career. I'm indebted to a whole lot of folks, primarily 2 sets of entities. One, professional. In this 5 years and 8 months that I've been with the Directorate General of Shipping, initially as the Joint Director General in second in command, and subsequently for the past 2 years as Director General of Shipping, I owe it to all the officers and staff who have contributed in no small measure to make this possible for me. I'm deeply grateful to all of them on this occasion. It's virtually impossible to name all of them. Personally, and this is not an Oscar, a very sentimental kind of a speech, I must also thank my family. I recall my late parents. There was a time, a year just before I qualified, exceptionally hard financial times for us in the family. But I owe it to my parents that they allowed me to stay put for a year doing nothing but except prepare for the civil service. I'm deeply grateful to you, Dad and Mom, wherever you are. I'm also thankful to my wife and children, my in-laws, for having made all this possible, because the immense measure of sacrifices, which is not normally acknowledged, it's probably not seen in a civil servant, particularly in a high-pressure environment. And there have been times where I've had to spend very late hours in office. Often I recall days when I was on anti-smuggling sorties in Indian naval ships and Coast Guard vessels not very long ago. For all that, thank you so much for standing by me. These 5 years and 8 months, and of course in the overall 36 years, I think I have been simply imbued by a very simplistic mantra, and all the more which is very transformational from a very regulatory environment which I came from my parents' service, the Indian Revenue Service, where somehow we got ingrained with a mindset to view every business with deep suspicion. And I think a whole lot of myths got busted when I first took my steps into what we call as secondments of deputation, and that was my first stint as Additional Textile Commissioner in the Government of India in the rank of Director way back in 1996 to 2001. It was a revelation, it was an eye-opener in ways more than one, when you tend to recognize that revenue collection is indeed salient, but not at the cost of killing the goose which lays the golden egg. And that's one point which was driven hard, but I think very, very enablingly. I owe it to those officers, the then textile commissioners, whom I got trained and mentored. The second stint of deputation after almost a decade was when I came in as Joint DG. Just to go back to what I said is the mantra that unless we in the civil service deem ourselves to be service providers, and I keep saying it's probably got a cliche now, this is not a truism, but this is a hard reality, that gone are the days when you could be a MyBop dispenser, a feudal warlord, if you will, but if you do not recognize that as a civil servant, you are no more than a service provider, and at the other end of the spectrum, you as stakeholders are service recipients, I think the time is not very far away where civil servants, perhaps more often than not, will just get junked into the dustbins of history. So unless we learn to adapt and adopt ourselves to this very simplistic philosophy, I'm sure we're not going to be going a long way. I also owe it to the various constituents of the maritime industry for having enabled me to come this far in the 5 years and 8 months that I have spent in the Indian National Maritime Administration. It's been exceptionally rewarding in terms of professional growth. I've grown as a human being and as a person in the Directorate General of Shipping. Incredible opportunities of learning, which probably, and I dare say this, having now hung up my boots, if I were to in my parents' service, where I had an opportunity of being a member in the Central Board of Excise and Customs almost about a year and 2 months ago, way back on the 1st of November, an offer which I then declined. But just as well that I stayed put and I stayed amidst all of you. So thank you so much for all of that. On the jury part, just a few thoughts. If it's not impudence on my part, if I'm not being very impertinent, you may as well want to consider innovation as a category, very as a focused area. And believe me, another category which is something which I would like to advocate from my heart is disruptive technology. The next generation of business practices from a startup is going to be marked by disruptive technologies. Not the status quoist, not where you are on an as-is-where-is basis. So the sooner you entrepreneurs adopt and adapt yourself to this new mindset, this paradigm, whether you like it or not, and as I keep saying in platform after platform, that the pace of change in the next 5 years with artificial intelligence and what have you coming into play, Internet of Things, I think the rules of the game will be completely metamorphosed. It'll be transformational. You're not looking at incremental growth opportunities, you're looking at transformation. And for that, the sooner we are prepared ourselves in terms of our skill sets, the better the transition is going to be more seamless for all of us. This is not an occasion for me to spend more perspectives. Maybe I'll sort of store it for some other day when I have another occasion. But thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for this extraordinary conferment. I'm deeply humbled. I take it with a spirit of absolute humility. And as I said, to reiterate, I owe it to all my staff and officers, my family, and all of you stakeholders. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Deepak Shetty, the former Director General of Shipping.